Rosabella, reporting from Kids First.
And I'm Rosemary.
And today we have the pleasure of speaking to Simone Hassan-Bey, a student starring in a new documentary, The Smartest Kids in the World, which will be available on Discovery Plus.
Simone Hassan-Bey is working towards building social change in many ways. She founded the Yoonhee Yoshi Memorial Scholarship to support undergrad students and is co-founder of Rooted Uprising, a collective working to empower community. In this documentary, Simone is a student from the U.S. who travels abroad to study as an exchange student in South Korea for a year. Hi, Simone. Welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
So to start off, when you went to South Korea and compared their educational system to that of the U.S., what aspects of their system were the most difficult to adjust to?
Well, I think one of the most difficult things was that, school seemingly never ended. So after classes normally end at 4 p.m., they continued through something called Yaja, which is basically after school classes basically in the same school. And different to the US, it's not after school in that you could do sports or music or dance or something like that. It's still more intense studying. And then they may continue doing that at something called a hagwon at a weekend, which is more private classes of tutoring. So it just seemed like they never really got, a lot of my good friends never got a chance to just enjoy being with each other or some alone time. I think that was like the hardest thing to adjust to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems a lot more work than in the US.
Yes. Well, I think that's really cool that you get more time for education. But what was it like to attend school in one of the highest ranked countries in the world in terms of education?
It was amazing. It was something that I was really looking forward to, is to have a new type of learning environment and to experience something that I had only heard of in other documentaries or had read about. So it was really, really cool to actually be in the classroom, taking classes with everyone, learning from everyone, and seeing just the dedication that everyone had towards learning something new, whether it be the teachers really being actively involved or the students themselves really having their own self-determination to accomplish whatever was required of them in terms of their classes. But it also seemed like it wasn't just about classes or school. It seemed a little bit to be about for their own selves, for whatever goal that they wanted to achieve, which was really cool to see.
I think that's really cool that you have longer terms of education in the US, because in the US it's a little bit worse. So that's really good that you have more education.
How did being in a different country for a whole year open your eyes to new things?
It opened my eyes to a lot of different things. I lived with host families. I lived with 5 host families over the course of that year. And so it introduced me to different family dynamics. Just the way that people talk to each other and greet each other was all very different. In terms of school, we'd get there really early, around like 7 in the morning, just to clean up. That was also really interesting. Everything felt really exciting and different. And I really appreciated how much everyone invited me in.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay. I think that's really cool. What are some things that you learned from your experience in South Korea?
One of the biggest things that I learned during that time was I'd always wanted, prior to going to Korea, to be in an environment where it seemed like everyone really cared about their classwork and their schoolwork, and just an atmosphere where there was a level of consideration, which I didn't feel like was happening in the States. But one of the biggest things that I learned was also the toll firsthand that it was taking on a lot of my peers. I had already heard about this, and I had already seen it in, again, different documentaries and articles, but to see it firsthand was really, really tough. And it really opened my eyes to that, wow, Korea is really still going through the system that they've had for over 50 years of wanting to work really hard as a part of a mentality that's come from the Korean War. And it's you can still see it in a way in the later generations on how hard they work, but you can still see like the toll that it actually has physically takes on a lot of these students to reach these goals of their school, but also even their own personal goals. It's not an easy feat to be a part of. Something that I had always wished for is that, yes, I appreciate the amount of hard work that they're putting into it, but I also wish that my friends had some time for themselves.
Okay, well, I like how you did your work on South Korea before going to school. That's really great that you had a lot, not that much time for your friends, but I think that was really good that you decided to go to South Korea.
Okay.
Yeah.
So since your time in South Korea was being recorded for this documentary, did that affect your experience at all?
Well, not really, because a lot of the documentary, the filming of it was kind of sporadic throughout my stay. I was there again for a year, and they would come for maybe a few days every few months. Maybe they came to Korea maybe 2 or 3 times. And then when I was in American high school, so I graduated American high school and then I went on to the study abroad program. And then they also filmed a little bit of my time at my freshman year of college, but they were all very much spread out. So it didn't really affect the day to day. And outside of going to Korean high school, I also took Korean language classes after school. So I was there until maybe our lunch period. And then after I did about 3 to 4 hours of Korean language classes as a part of my program. So it didn't really interfere too much. Sometimes it was a lot, and sometimes it did feel a bit overwhelming in terms of it felt like I'm sharing so much of myself that I've never had shared before. And even now, it's been 5 years since that documentary was recorded. So having, people for the first time in my life were going to know about this. So that was a lot, but the filming of it in itself wasn't too invasive.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering about that because it seems like it's like showing a lot of the time, but really you were there for a whole year in the movie.
Right.
So, yeah, okay.
Well, that's really cool that it's like showing a lot of different times and place. But what was your best experience from your year abroad?
I think my best experience from my year abroad, that's a really good question. I think one of the most maybe memorable parts of it is something that is actually shown in the film. It's myself and Sumi together. It's one of my good friends from school. It was her first time first time in a while, being able to go out and not like go to classes right away or go to Hagwons right away. So that was really, really cool because it was nice to be able to see a friend outside of a classroom environment.
Oh wow, that's nice that you got to be with your friends and you had that one part in school together. So that's really good that you had a good education and also good friendships.
Yeah. Okay. Also, so how did you find the program that allowed you to attend school for free in South Korea?
So that was a bit of a journey. I was actually studying for my SATs at that time, and I decided to take a break, went on YouTube, and a video popped up saying, a part of my recommended, I guess, based on some of the content that I'd already watched, and it was saying, study abroad in Korea for free for a year, something like that. Something like that was in the title. So I watched a video, maybe 11 minutes long, but I only watched 2 minutes of it, and immediately was intrigued and decided to take a look at their website and saw that the deadline was about 4 days away to apply. And also it was my last chance to apply because I was a senior. So I decided to push off the SATs for a moment, or at least for the day, and start getting on that application. And it just so happened that I got accepted into the program, and it was amazing. It allowed me to live with host families, go to Korean classes, and as you see in the film, go to Korean high school.
Wow, yeah. So it was like a quick decision.
It was a very quick decision. Even the fact that I would be going for an academic year, it wasn't something that I had thought about for months or something. It was, here's an opportunity, you have to apply now if you want to go. And it's also, technically, it was my last chance to apply because I was a senior and this was made for high school. It was a program made for high school students. So I just decided that this is something that I wanted to do. And thankfully, I got accepted into the program, and that's how I started my Korean language learning journey, was primarily on that program.
Well, it sounds like it worked out, so that's good.
It did.
Well, I think that's nice that you just applied and you really got accepted. Glad that they liked you and you went to South Korea and you learned new experiences. But what were your first days when you moved and you were first getting to know your host family and others?
I'm so sorry. Can you repeat that question?
What were your first days like when you moved to and when you were getting to know your host family and others?
Yeah, so my first few days meeting my host family in particular, it's very interesting because I had a lot of first few days meeting host families. I had to move quite a bit while on the program, but it was always really exciting because I got to see so many different types of family dynamics, Korean family dynamics, which were really, really interesting, and getting to see the parallels between them, but also getting to see things that felt familiar from things that, family dynamics that I may see in the US, but also getting to know a little bit more of Korean culture and even more of the language as well through living with them. And just my first few days, I just felt like, wow, I really need to study a lot. I need to learn a lot. Gratefully in Korea, there's English on pretty much all of like the street signs and stuff like that. So that was easy, but I had a desire to communicate with people and want to talk and get to know more people. So that was something where I felt like, I really gotta to start getting on this. So that's where my first few days was, just kind of a realization of there's so much I don't know.
Oh, wow. I think that you learned a lot from being in South Korea. So it's really nice that you learned your language, and that was really good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for talking with us, Simone.
Yeah, thank you. Simone appears in the new documentary, The Smartest Kids in the World, which releases on Discovery Plus August 16, 2021. I'm Rosemary, reporting for Kids First.
And I'm Rosabella. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel so you listen to our upcoming interviews and reviews.
Bye. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Nothing these other countries have done that we couldn't do. Nothing.